you said you had a system in place now to avoid that.
Right, different types of trees.
So
Yeah. If I may just interrupt, Joe was taking photos, and this is on Facebook, just to let you know, if you have any objection, we can ask him not to, but I had said it's fine with me, so.
Yeah, I don't really subscribe to Facebook, so I don't particularly want to be out on
Oh, okay, so I guess we better
Well, it's a
not.
public hearing. It's a public hearing and right, public hearings can't be taped. So it's open meeting law. It'd be a violation of the open meeting law to not tape it.
Do you need my permission to, do you need my permission?
Not an open meeting law, no.
You sure about that?
Absolutely.
I don't follow that closely, so I'm just asking if.
Yeah, I've filed violations on Rick Caraviello, and he was out of order, and Roy Belson was out of order. This is a right for the public to know what is going on. It's a public tree, and it's a public
Fair
hearing.
enough. If everything's on the up and up, and you.
I think.
Yeah, Robert Mayako at the cemetery hearing, when I taped them, he said absolutely he has a right, and Mr. Mayako was not my fan. So.
Okay.
Fair enough.
Well,
I'm not concerned either way, but that was just my.
Yes, well, I'm glad you know what's happening anyway, just to make you aware.
So it's gotten progressively worse. You can see the sidewalk getting pushed up and over closer to my property. So on a regular basis, runners, women and strollers have to walk out into the street.
Mm-hmm.
They have to go around. Those are my two biggest gripes.
Okay.
I see, and I mentioned to you in the past, I've seen people fall out there.
Yes, yes. And I agree that's all, the discussion that we've had for quite some time, 3 or 4 years now,
Yes.
so.
I think I've been patient, and I know there was some other things playing around in the background that were out of our control, but that's it. Simplistically, it's causing issues with my home, and I've been a loyal resident for almost 30 years. And from a city perspective, it's just every day that we wait further will cause an issue with the sidewalk and potentially potential danger for anybody coming along there.
Okay, thank you. And I think it's probably appropriate that I step in here just to explain the reason why it's taken this considerable length of time to address the tree. Back when this was first brought to my attention by you, at that time the city had intended to repave, reconstruct Paris Street. So the tree would have been addressed with all the other trees and the other utilities and so forth on Paris Street. So we delayed it so it could be part of that total project. That project was postponed. We had a tentative date for it to happen, I think, the following year, and then it was delayed again. So the tree is, the street now, it's my understanding that there is a bid out to, and a reassessment, because the original bid was old, it's outdated, 3 years old. So the contractor that bid and would have had the project needs to adjust figures, but the plan is to address that project in the spring, early spring. So the tree, when the street project is completed, will have to be removed. So it's a matter of months until it's inevitable. But since it's a healthy tree, at this point, to follow the law by the letter, we don't want to remove a healthy tree without a public hearing so everyone understands what's happening.
And do you feel like it's still healthy? It was shedding leaves starting in July this year, and it's never done that usually in September.
No, that's happened to many of our trees, especially the maples. It's called tar spot, and it's the round black spots that appear on the leaves. And that one's actually not as affected as many. I was just over there this afternoon, and it does have a pretty full canopy. It's in good condition. However, the circumstances of the roots and the sidewalk, handicap accessibility, your utilities, and the street construction project make it necessary to remove it.
Right.
So if there were a means for us, if the street wasn't going to be redone and there was a means of trying to preserve the tree and working around it and the street and so forth, we would pursue that. But it's inevitable that it will have to happen in the spring. So that I just want to let folks know that it's just a matter of months. We're just taking it down a little earlier than it would have been happening. So does anyone else have a question?
Why is, I really don't want to be on it, if you don't mind. Why, if they're redoing the street, does that mean they're taking down all the trees on the street? Is that just part of it? Why would that be?
They do need to ensure handicap accessibility. I don't know of any other trees on that street that impose on handicap accessibility. There are some larger trees that are on private property that won't affect the sidewalk. This is the only one that's come to my attention. I think there are just a few trees left on the entire Paris Street.
I know. I mean, it's really a shame that that big beautiful tree, and there's so few trees on that street.
I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah.
And all in that, and everything I explained, it has outweighed it as I've just watched it progressively get worse. This is actually, shade aside, this is actually starting to do more harm than good, in my opinion. And I've been patient with it. You know, it's not just something I come up with overnight. You know, I paid 3 plumbing bills aside, and I didn't try to build a city back for them.
Right.
But I was equally concerned about the someone getting
You
into
walk
an
down
accident.
any street in Medford, and the sidewalks are all like that.
Not like that.
Oh yeah, I can give you
There
a
are
couple.
certainly, there are
Do you do a
cases
lot
where
of
that
walking?
happens. But when
Oh, yeah, I do.
the city's required to, when rebuilding, you have to ensure handicap accessibility. You have to address the problem, the issue for a new project. If you don't have to take down every tree that imposes on a sidewalk, but for ongoing projects, you have to, by federal law, take care of it.
I think
The other thing is that the water line is right here as well, and the gas line is on the other side. So there are all of these issues, let alone the private property, disruption of the wall, and the roots in the sidewalk. And one other thing I'll mention is that this photo shows that the wires are coming down the street, but jog around this tree. They don't accept the wires come almost right at the tree, but then right before your house it jogs across the street at an angle. So my feeling is that this tree has probably survived beyond the other trees that were once on the street and we removed because they were under wires. The trees get pruned to keep the wires, electrical service going. They are susceptible more to diseases and insects and so forth, and they decline and die. But this one, since it wasn't under the wires, grew huge. I mean, that's gonna be 60 feet. Your house is at least 30 feet, so that's probably 70 feet.
Yeah.
So the other trees couldn't survive to 70 feet because they had to be, once they got through the wires and entangled in the wires, they had to be removed or they died. So that's the reason that's a holdover.
So I do understand your perspective. We thought about it, we talked about it as a family, and I've already stated that I would like another one back as soon as we can get one. But I really just think the injury piece of it, you know, young families having to walk out into the street, going around that particular tree and sidewalk, is not really what you're trying to, you know, bring or have in the city as well. So
You walk down Governor's, and you can't really even walk on the sidewalk on Governor's because all the brush has gone onto the sidewalk, and there are limbs down there now. The city doesn't care. Why would they care about one tree?
Because it's part of a larger project, a street construction project that has to abide by
Why doesn't
federal government.
But it's okay to have Governor's Avenue where you can't walk down the sidewalk?
That's a separate issue, and those are shrubs, so that's not part of my responsibility as tree warden, but you could make a request to have that addressed. Did you have something you wanted
Yeah, I
to
was
say?
just saying, objectively looking at the photo, I mean, that's a hazard. You can't even fit a barrel through there, the small green barrels, not even the big blue ones.
Mhm.
I mean, shouldn't right there be a standard for a city, objectively?
I believe the requirement is 32 inches. There may be times when it can be 30, but this is certainly not anywhere near that.
No way.
How much does it cost to take a tree down?
We don't divide it by tree. It's done in-house generally, so it's just a kind of a function of the forestry department labor, hours and materials and equipment. I don't have a tree by tree cost.
Then why on my street did those two fellows try to take down the tree wrongfully? And they were National Grid subcontractors, correct?
They were working on trees under National Grid wires. There was a miscommunication about the address of the tree. And fortunately, you came out and saw that, and I came over immediately and we stopped it, and they ended up pruning it to make it actually more healthy than it was
Wow.
began.
They had pruned it before we came over.
Yes, but I mean, the final result was that the tree has improved.
My problem was that a neighbor came out first and they didn't tell her about the shade tree law. I never knew about the shade tree law till I said, I'm going to the city council tonight and you guys will be famous. And they said, call Aggie, shade tree law. So they're supposed to, when the woman came out, they were supposed to immediately stop, as my understanding of the law. When she protested, they didn't. So I think this whole, well, I don't know. I'm on camera too, and it's like, that was very suspect. So someone is paying a lot of money. City Hall must pay the subcontractor, correct? That's not coming under.
That we do not. The company that was working on the tree that day was called Asplund Tree.
Yep.
The big orange trucks with the black letters. They are a subcontractor of National Grid. The city does not pay for that. They do that as a service at no charge to the city to remove trees that are under wires. And the reason for that is that there's an electrical hazard under high voltage wires especially, and they have specially trained and licensed arborists. So their vehicles come in when a tree is under high voltage wires and often other wires, and they remove it. Their requirement is to take it within 10 feet of the wires, but we have an arrangement that they're very generous to Medford, and they take it down to a stump and leave, instead of, you occasionally see the tall butts. That's if an Asplund crew comes in, that's not one of our usual. If they come from New Hampshire or Maine or whatever, they're accustomed to leaving them as tall. But the folks that work regularly with us are extremely cooperative and help us take them down to the stump.
So this is important actually for this case too. Those fellows said to me it was a rotten tree, and I said, no, that root is excellent. It is not rotten. And then they started badgering me about voting for Donald Trump. So,
well, Joe, if I can interrupt, we can talk about that, but not at this hearing, because that's a separate issue.
Well, my point is, we're Tree City America, and all due respect,
and
guys.
that's the biggest joke on earth.
I know. Well,
yeah.
Mayor McGlynn's hyperbole. I'll put it on camera. Mayor McGlynn loves hyperbole, but he, get a little integrity. Forget about it. Bottom line is, if it were me, the trees in this day and age when we're having all sorts of problems with the health of the air, they are essential. This is a gorgeous tree that's lived a long life. Paving over this and making sure that it's accessible, handicap accessible, and working with the residents to make this Tree City America and not just a tagline. To me, for you especially, because you're a nice person and people say good things about you, Aggie. So, that's good to hear in City Hall. You do a good job. I like to save the lives of trees. I just think they're important for, it's a living, breathing being. And too many being chopped down in Medford. There's too many being chopped down.
Well, the trees in Medford are like this because of the wires, and I mean, we've got horrible trees. You go into Belmont, you go into Winchester, you go into Lexington, and the trees are not like the trees here in Medford. And I'm going to that other meeting over there, but if you go to enough of these tree meetings, you will. Nobody ever monitors National Grid.
Nope.
They do what they want when they want. Yep. No one goes out and meets the truck and says, okay, this is what you're supposed to do. And I think it's really terrible. They get away with it. I beg to differ because I do monitor. I've watched them enough that
all right. Well, we've had incidents, but could we please stay with this subject? We can talk about other subjects and previous incidents, but I think we need to, out of respect for the residents here, just wrap this up about this tree. So the next step, if anyone objects to the removal of this tree at 58 Paris Street, if you put it in writing, the statement will go to the mayor, and it's the mayor's decision.
And that's final.
The mayor's decision is final.
I have no recourse after that.
And what is
Except to wait till the street gets done.
When's the time frame to put in these letters? Do we have like 2 days?
Now, before this meeting ends.
Oh, wow.
Is that part of that?
In writing at the meeting.
I would like an extension because there are people I know that would like to object, and they're not here. And
I'm sorry, Joe, that I can show you this.
Yeah, it's okay. I'm sorry, guys, but I'm just a tree person,
Yeah.
and I.
you wanna sacrifice public safety over that decision, then.
Well, there's so much sacrifice. When Adam Knight put signs on the bus stops yesterday,
Listen, you're
All right,
being
may I-
political, I'd appreciate you just stay on
Let's-
point.
yes, and
This
if I
is
may-
about a
I
tree
gave you an
58
example
Paris
of
Street.
public safety. You brought up public safety, you opened the door.
And then-
We were in a court of law, the
Excuse
judge
me,
would have, you want to
My
bully
tree
me,
at
fine.
58 Paris Street, my tree.
You're-
Yes, so
you're-
let's get back, please.
It's,
to
no, it's a
58
public
Paris
tree,
Street.
it's not your tree.
That's right, my quote unquote.
All right, for the purpose of this meeting, it's a short sentence from Mass General Laws, Chapter 87, Section 4, cutting down or removing public shade trees, approval of selectmen or mayor. In that situation, we have a mayor. Tree wardens shall not cut down or remove or grant a permit for the cutting down or removal of a public shade tree if at or before a public hearing as provided in the preceding section, objection in writing is made by one or more persons, unless such cutting or removal or permit to cut the tree is approved by the selectman or by the mayor. So this clearly states that it has to be done before this meeing is over. So
I'll
you
file
have
a
a
letter, and then I will hold the mayor accountable at this election.
What how has the mayor been voting on these issues, or deciding on these issues? Is
The
there
mayor has
a
not had one, we have not had any objections to removals.
I have to go to another meeting, so.
Thank you.
Here's Mayor Burke's big chance to see that she's Tree City America.
Mayor
an
Burke is
election.
very happy to announce, and I'm happy as her forestry, tree warden, that we just have achieved 19th year as Tree City USA in Medford. And
Okay.
our 9th year of a growth award. So
Then
I'm sure publicity for Tree City for Medford is very welcome.
Sure, and if this tree gets murdered, let me be there to tape it. I would like to put in a public records request so I can videotape the murder of a tree and.
And I have a collection of photographs like that.
Really?
Trees that have been murdered in Medford, if you ever,
So Tree City America, it's such an oxymoron.
yeah.
It is so hypocritical. When we're not
Alright,
taking
okay, so
the.
no one has written, just so
I-
we all
I'm
agree, no
going.
one has written objection. Okay, all right, thank you. Okay,
I'd like to write an objection.
right now?
That's what I said.
Oh, you said you would write it, oh, no,
I
okay.
said I'm gonna write an objection and hold the mayor that if she just won Tree City America, I will publicize it to 60 Minutes. I wanna see that she does the right thing.